We're going to call the meeting to order, everyone. Are there any special intentions from any of the council members or administration?
Again, I'd like to include Julie Stokes in our prayers. She's starting her chemo treatment, and she is a trooper. And so please keep her in your prayers at this time.
If y'all would also remember my council assistant, Darrell Dozat.
Oh, yes.
Her father passed away last Friday, Fred Brady. If you could remember them in your prayers as well.
Councilman Marino, please lead us with the prayers.
Let us bow our heads and remember that we are in the presence of the Lord. God of wisdom and might, we praise you for the wonder of our being, for mind, body, and spirit. Be with our children as they begin a new school year. Bless them and their teachers and staff. Give them strength and grace as their bodies grow, wisdom and knowledge to the minds as they search for understanding, and peace and zeal to their hearts. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
We have a special guest tonight to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Boy Scout Troop 227, will you please come to the microphone, gentlemen? Could you first say your name and troop number before y'all start? Thank you.
Now, if everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Citizen salute. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Good evening. You have a quorum. Council President, Councilman Klein is absent. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B-14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Council President, I've received a request to suspend the council rules to remove item 3E from our agenda. If I could get a motion in a second, please.
Motion by Councilman Pistado, second by Councilman Wilmot to change the order of business. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. And then if I could get another motion to actually remove it from the agenda.
Motion to remove, motion by Councilman Pistado, second by Councilman Wilmot to remove. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Under the consent agenda, item 1 is approval of minutes of the regular council meeting of July 20th, 2017. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2033-17. City of Kenner to hold a public gathering on August 19th, 2017 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the purpose of a movie in the park at Heritage Park, Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3B is application number 2031-17. The Jefferson Chamber of Commerce to hold a public gathering on September 10, 2017 from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for the purpose of a Tour de Jefferson 2017 bike ride throughout various streets in the city of Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3C is an application number 2035-17, Church on a Mission to hold a public gathering on August 6, 2017 from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for the purpose of church services at Laketown Park, Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3D is application number 2036-17, Kira Smoot to hold a public gathering on August 5, 2017 from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the purpose of a block party at 1516 Lloyd Price Avenue, Kenner, Louisiana. Item 4 is correspondence from the mayor and CAO or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor Zahn, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Council Chairman. Just a quick few things. This past Monday, we did a code sweep on Vouray and Laurie Drive in District 4. It was one of the largest morning code sweeps we've done. We actually had 158 violations. Probably not a good thing to brag about, but I mean, at least we're out there finding the violations to keep our constituents safe. So Councilman Klein is not here. We had worked in conjunction with him, like we've worked with Councilman DeFrancis and Councilman Wilmot throughout all the districts to make sure that we continue these code sweeps. And as we've preached, we will continue to do these code sweeps weekly. Some good news on some different things just to talk about. The contractor has contacted us in District 4 again for demo of the old Hollywood movie theater. That is great news because that means that the property is sold and that will be demoed very quickly. It's an eyesore, it's blighted, it's disgusting, and we're going to get rid of it, and we've promised that. Habitat for Humanity will soon begin their process of going through everything. They've got their permit, they've done everything they had to do. That will be located on some sale of property that we had down the street, not too far from the brake tag station. Peak BMW has obtained permits to add additional space and a total renovation of the facility. That's in Councilman Segura's district, and we look forward to having that happen. More good things that are happening. GT Woods Elementary School has obtained permits in District 1 to add new buildings on their campus. Solid Deal, a tire wholesaler who previously was located in the city of Kenner, then left, has decided to return to District 2, back to the city of Kenner, and they'll be doing a reopening pretty soon, the 2400 block of Piedmont Street. District 1. The CarMax project has started. As you go out there and you see in District 2, that's being cleared. A lot of construction will start very soon. That's going to be a huge asset to our city. That's extremely important to make sure that that happens. That was something done before we got here. We don't take the credit for that. I applaud the council that is here that actually did that. We have a $800,000 project permit for renovation at the Treasure Chest Casino. That's really, really good news. That's in District 3. We appreciate what's happening there. That is a very, very good project to have. We can always use better-looking facilities, and of course, the Treasure Chest has obviously been a very good friend of the city of Kenner, and they're doing that. So, to do a little update on where we are with some things that have happened this past week in the federal court system, a federal court judge has ruled that and has prohibited from us enforcing a charter amendment passed a few years ago for our non-classified employees. They cannot engage, they can engage in political activity. The city defended this suit, as I've said before, with a 25-page brief, 1 hour of argument before the court. In our defense, we said that the people have voted 70-something percent in the past for an apolitical workforce. We made that clear. But the court had issues with the vagueness and also a little broad and the constitutionality of it. We are not going to ignore the people's will. Like I said, 70% of the people actually asked for an apolitical workforce. However, we're stuck between the will of the people, which we're recognizing, and also a federal judge. Long term, we're going to need a charter amendment. I'm going to look at the charter as we've been doing. We're going to look at numerous things that need to be addressed in the charter, and I'm going to come to you in the near future and say we need to look at a charter revision committee on a lot of issues on the charter. In that meantime, I've put a policy in place that resembles the Hatch Act. Why the Hatch Act? Because the federal judge named the Hatch Act numerous times in her ruling. Like I said, we're not ignoring the will of the people, but we're not going to ignore a federal judge's ruling either. So therefore, the Hatch Act, which I've passed out to you all, hopefully you all have gotten it by now, the Hatch Act is not broad, it's not vague. It is something that will give us some guidelines. My policy that I've placed resembles the Hatch Act. It's a federal act. I believe that's what we need right now because the will of the people is what we have to definitely take into account while we're still dealing with this issue with the courts. With the Hatch Act, we will have an apolitical, constitutional workforce. I believe that's what our people are asking for. I believe that's what my job is to make sure is done, working between, again, the people's will and a federal judge. And that's why I believe y'all have a resolution on the agenda tonight to support the policy, because I know each and every one of you all support an apolitical workforce that's constitutional, that will keep all of our citizens happy and what they asked for 6 or 7 years ago. I appreciate y'all's time. If y'all have any questions, obviously, I'm always here to answer anything, but that's where we are right now, and all of us working together will get us through this. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman DeFranchise, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, since Councilman Klein isn't here, I'd like to make a comment. Councilman Klein and I had many meetings with the people of Cannes Brulee involving the Hollywood Theater. And one of the commitments that had been made, and I think Mr. Walter may be aware of it already, is that before demolition would begin, that the theater would be exterminated. And that was a commitment we made on behalf of the city of Kenner, because it is rat infested, and the neighborhood, rightfully so, feared that the rats would get into their neighborhood. So again, I'd like to remind everyone in the administration that commitment was made to the people of that subdivision, and hopefully that extermination will take place prior to demolition.
I don't think they've gone to the sale yet.
Right.
And obviously, after that, they'll be having to file for demo permit at that point. Yeah, we'll take care of that.
And that's why I wanted to
gonna-
mention it before the demo permits
No,
were given out.
and we're going to, and like I said, and I appreciate that, and that's always good to remind us, because when the contractor's contacting us, we're very aware of the rats, you know. Are those the four-legged rats, or is it something else? I don't
Unfortunately.
know. But no, we're gonna absolutely it's, when you have contact with them, when I have contact, and we're going to definitely make sure that we get that out 3 ways or 4 ways with Councilman Wilmot's help also.
And I know the people of Cannes Brulee would be very, very
No,
appreciative.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Impastato, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, Mayor Zahn, to piggyback on your report on the lawsuit, I think it's important to point out a few things, not that you left them out, but just things that, in talking to people in the public over the last, probably 6,000 people or so over the last few months, some of the questions that I've gotten. One had to do with the procedural nature of the suit, and I think it's important to understand that this was a federal judge opinion, and federal judges are not political. They are appointed for life by the president, and I can speak from experience and say that this particular judge is extremely conservative, generally speaking. So this is a federal judge with no political stake in this whatsoever at all, whether it's Kenner, whether it's wherever. So I think that's important. And I want to commend you and the administration and let you know from my vantage point, to the extent it matters, I support your efforts to restrict the unclassified employees to the fullest extent that the federal law and the Constitution allows. So if this Hatch Act is what the court has suggested, I've read the opinion, I agree with you, it seems like it's suggesting that this is, as far as she believes would comport with the Constitution. I personally am supportive of your efforts to restrict all the administrative employees to that effect, because, I'm in favor of the apolitical workforce and making sure that people are not, that politics aren't disrupting the business of the city, and I think that's important. But also recognizing that whether we like it or not, whether 100% of the people voted for the charter amendment or 51%, the fact is, the court has said it is not appropriate, it is not allowed, the city is not allowed to enforce it. So we're between a rock and a hard place, and for that reason, I would be supportive of your efforts in that regard, so.
I appreciate it, Councilman Impastato, and it's been a tricky situation to be in. I feel that myself, this administration, along with the council's help, has done a pretty good job of making sure that we have protected the will of the people. At the same time, we have a federal ruling, and we're we're going to come somewhere in between that, and I feel, look, it's not perfect, but I think it's a good start. But I do think we need to look at a charter amendment in the future after we look at a lot of things on the charter to get back out to the people. And that's where we need to keep on going. This, in the meantime, along with y'all's resolution, at least assures our constituents that we're listening to their voice while we're also listening to the courts.
But that will not run afoul of the Constitution.
Exactly. That's what this does. And if we could adopt this eventually into a charter amendment, I think everyone is getting what they want. So we will be, we'll be in good shape and not forgetting our people's will.
Thank you, Councilman. No one else? No one else? Councilman Zahn, are you,
I'm finished, Council Chairman. Thank you.
thank you.
Item 5 is acceptance, rejection of bids requiring expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 6 is change orders requiring expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 7 is acceptance of committee findings for final passage. We have none. Item 8 is re-subdivision of ordinances for final passage. Item 8A is ordinance number 12,002, summary ordinance number 12,273, an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of lots 1 through 3 and lots 18 through 24, square 28, into lot 24A, Old Kenner subdivision, Kenner, Louisiana, which lots are owned by Jefferson Community Health Care Centers, Incorporated, case P-13-17.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Wilmot to accept the consent agenda. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Under the public appearance agenda, item 9 is public hearings for final passage. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 12,267, an ordinance to revoke, rescind, and cancel a portion of a donation insofar as its affects parcel C, square 26, to status quo ante, as if the donation had not occurred, and approved, ratified, and confirm the donation to the city insofar as it affects partial 2, square 26, of the donation from Ms. Vera Watney and related matters.
Motion by Councilman Wilmot, second by Councilwoman DeFranchise to accept. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Excuse,
Councilwoman DeFranchise.
I'm sorry, we voted prior to allowing our city attorney to explain to the public what was occurring. We had made a commitment at the meeting that I had with the mayor, because there were questions that were raised by the public as to exactly what we were doing. They didn't understand it. I've received a few calls. Would it be possible to allow our city attorney to explain exactly what we're doing?
I'd be happy to explain it.
Okay, and just for the record, I never knew about that, so no one gave me that information that you wanted to say something, Lee.
That happened right before the meeting, I'll be honest with you.
All
I
right.
think the councilwoman would like for me to say something, so.
Okay. So as far as, we've already voted on it, it's after.
I mean, if you'd like me to speak at the end, I'm happy to explain it at the end. It's up.
Could you do that?
Sure.
Just for the sake of,
Absolutely.
the order.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
So I have a motion from Councilman Wilmot, seconded by DeFranchise, and we have a 6-0.
Aye.
I think didn't we vote on it already?
Let's do it again, just.
Yeah, we have.
Aye.
Yeah.
All right.
Aye.
All right, I'm sorry. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution in support of the mayor's implementation of a policy establishing an apolitical workforce for non-civil service employees based on the Hatch Act.
Yes, we have a number of, a discussion prior to our next proceeding from the council. Councilwoman DeFranchise, you have the floor.
Excuse me, point of order. Do we need a motion to put it on the floor?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
motion by Councilman Imbastado, second by Councilman Segura.
I filed it.
You did.
So I would like the
Sponsor.
motion.
Okay, motion by Councilman Segura, second by Councilman Impostata.
Thank you. No, that's okay.
Okay, to put it on the floor.
Thank you. And then I'd like to open.
You want to open? Councilman Segura to open.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment, too, to somewhat echo some of the comments that were just discussed when the mayor's presentation was done on this, that this resolution is, the intent is, as said, to show, hopefully, we as the council are supportive of a apolitical workforce that was voted on, has been said many times, by 70% of the voters who had that intent. Unfortunately, as I said at another council meeting, sometimes the words that are voted on don't hold up to the laws that are in our land, and that everybody has the right to file suit and ask for a judgment on the words of a law, and in this case, ask for the constitutionality of those words. And as we have seen now with the judge granting a preliminary injunction to stop the city from enforcing the words that were voted on, that we are in that, and I'll use somebody else's term, that cleft that says we have the voters who said one thing or intended by spirit to do something, and then words that have now been determined by a federal court to not be presumably constitutional by the injunction, and more likely will be ruled on in that favor shortly. So with the mayor taking the initiative here to put something in place is to clearly show that the mayor, as hopefully the council, will be strongly in favor of the spirit of that vote and keep a apolitical workforce, because until he put that policy in place, based on the injunction, the employees were not bound by any restrictions. They were free to go about and do whatever their First Amendment right allowed them to do. So the fact that they are employees of the city, and we have some interest in ensuring that the things that they do and say are in keeping with the mindset of our voters' spirit and a First Amendment of our Constitution's freedom of speech. Again, the mayor took the initiative to put this policy in place. So certainly, as Councilman Impostata said, I do want to also commend the mayor for taking swift action to move this forward, to put it in place as a policy of his administration. Here, with this resolution, I put it up for the purpose of hoping that our council will in turn vote in favor of supporting what he has done to show not only the voters of the city, everybody in the city that was involved in that or was not involved in that vote today, that we are still believing that an apolitical workforce is the best thing. But it also hopefully is helpful to the employees who not only were the plaintiffs in this suit, but others who were not, but that were in the same dilemma, can now understand what they can do and what they cannot do in their job, and then still keep their First Amendment right. So with that, I also would encourage and hope that the plaintiffs would see fit to be more guided now by this policy and perhaps seek to a speedy resolution of their suit so that the city can put a control on some of the spending that's taken place in defense, because the mayor has put up a very strong defense, and that does unfortunately take dollars to do. So, but now with this policy in place, hopefully these plaintiffs will see this as a proper course of action and can do what lawyers are good at, find a speedy way to resolve a dispute and not have to go through the whole dragged-out time. So with that, I strongly encourage all of the council members to get behind this and show that you are also in favor of this apolitical workforce policy that is, according to the federal judge, more likely to be in her favor as constitutional. So with that, I will yield to other councilmen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Reynolds, you have the floor, sir.
I have a few questions, seeing that we just received the letter from the mayor yesterday regarding this, and just received the information signed by the mayor as to what his policy is going to be on this. And I haven't even had a chance to read it. When I say we just received it prior to this meeting, they were handing them out. I have a question for our city attorney. What are the rules, the political activity rules regarding civil service employees?
There are many, Councilman.
Okay.
I don't have the civil service rules in front of me, so I'd be happy to get you that information. As far as civil service employees are concerned, it's specifically outlined in the civil service rules. So I'd want to look at those before I answered you.
Okay, because you know, the voters, like it's been mentioned by the mayor and other council members and the voters as well, because many call me, you know, it passed by 70%. They're looking for an apolitical workforce, and there's no better policy to implement than what's in civil service right now for all employees. And that would be better than anything. And again, I haven't read this, so I'm not, you know, I don't know what's in it. But I'm just making that recommendation that it seems to me that, you know, what's good for one set of employees, if the public wants an apolitical workforce, then everybody's under the same rules and regulations. So my question to you was only, you know, if you had that information. You don't have that information, and I understand that, and, you know, I would hope, I know there has been a request for this to be deferred for one meeting, seeing that we just got the letter from the mayor yesterday and just received this, and I haven't even read it. I would hope that that's the direction that we move forward, and that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. President.
Let me just, I guess, to address some of the issues that you presented. You're talking about two different classes of employees, so civil service rules do not apply to unclassified, non-elected employees of the city. This policy that Mayor Zahn actually put into effect August 2nd, it would apply to non-elected employees of the city who are not classified employees. So the unclassified employees don't have the civil service protection. So this is a policy unique to appointed city employees of the city of Kenner.
I hear what you're saying. Again, we have not had a chance to discuss it. We are the legislative branch of government, and we should all be in some kind of discussion on this, because, again, this body, okay, put the proposition up on the agenda. It was this body that voted on it. And I believe this body, and I haven't had any conversations with anybody regarding this from the administration. So all I'm saying is that I believe that we should have more discussion. So that therefore, I hope that we would all vote for the deferral that was put up by our council president. And thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Embastado, you have the floor.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the deferral that will be requested. I certainly understand and frankly would encourage time to be taken on this in light of Councilman Reynolds' comments. I think what it brings to light is part of it, if you read the opinion, that's part of the challenge, is the difference between civil service and non-civil service. And the way I read the opinion, that's a critical issue as to what rendered this unconstitutional. And not recognizing that distinction is part of how we got here. And I do want to make something clear. This body, in the general sense, did pass this. This council that's sitting here did not. And I was not on that council. I know a couple of y'all where I was not. I know Councilman Segura and Councilman Wilmot were not. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I wasn't, and we weren't. But what I do know, as James Gill's article in The Advocate pointed out today, the council at that time was admonished that it was unconstitutional by the city. The city attorney gave an opinion that it was unconstitutional. I hate to say it, for very similar, if not identical reasons, as 7 years later now, the federal judge said it was. So I would just say, as we go forward, I'm all for, I agree with a lot of what Councilman Reynolds said in terms of let's make sure that the apolitical wishes of that council and the citizens, I want to make sure those are adhered to and recognized. But I hope that this time we can make sure whatever it is done really carefully, drawn carefully, so that we can make sure it passes, all constitutional muster, so we don't have to go down this road again. So let's do it right. let's hopefully do it right next time. And so that's what I'd like to see. I'm all for it. I'm all for the concept. I'm all for the philosophy. But we want to make sure we get it right this time. So I agree with, for that reason, I don't have a problem with the deferral, because if we got to take more time to make sure it gets right, let's just not be hasty. Let's make sure whatever we put in place is right. So I don't have a problem with the request for deferral that Councilman Reynolds, I don't know whoever's proposing it, but that's not a problem from my end. So,
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Zahn, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. I didn't know if any of the council people wanted to go before me. I didn't want to.
I don't see any more.
Okay. And I do agree with you, Councilman Impostata. I guess it's the directors are not civil servants, and the unclassified people in general, because it's not just directors, are not civil servants. And just for the record, for the public out there, we have discussed this with the council. The reason, and I did discuss it just recently with Councilman DeFrancis. Councilman Reynolds, you may not have had the discussion for two reasons. So the council is aware of what we've done and why we're doing. Were you kept out of it on purpose? No. You put yourself in that position when you intervened with the lawsuit. When we were in discussion with the council, along with Councilman DeFrancis, and I do want to thank y'all for acknowledging that we are doing our job, myself and the chief, most recently, when y'all withdrew the intervention. But that was the reason why we couldn't discuss it with you all. I did discuss it this afternoon with Councilman DeFrancis, because after it was drawn and after y'all withdraw the intervention, I was able to do that. Councilman Reynolds, you weren't able to make the agenda meeting for the third time in the last three agenda meetings. So that does probably create a problem, not being able to reach out to your office and have those discussions. So for yourself and Councilman DeFrancis, we couldn't discuss it when we were doing the process. And then today, we were able to discuss it with Councilman DeFrancis when she showed up at the agenda meeting, which you did not do. So that is the issue that we've had. We're trying to get this out to you all to make sure you all were aware of what we're doing. Look, the deferral's fine. We have a policy in place. Whether y'all accept this or not through a resolution, because you can't do an ordinance, is up to the council, and I appreciate that. But we have a policy in place that's going to be in place until we can reach out and do a charter revision committee to address this for the future for our people. So just to clear up why not every council member was aware of this, that's the reasons why the council couldn't be aware until, I appreciate this afternoon, Councilman DeFrancis coming to us later on this afternoon. Thank you, Councilman DeFrancis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Wilmot, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to commend the mayor for his swift actions. I believe that's very important to be able to address it immediately, because without anything in place, there's absolutely, it's a problem, could be. And also, I mean, the will of the people, 70% or so plus, wanted a political workforce. And I think that's what you're supporting. We also have a federal rule that just was handed down. So between those two, somewhere is where we need to lie. That's very, very important. I don't see any other way. We can't go outside the bracket on one side, and we can't go out on the other side. So we need to be somewhere in there. And I think the Hatch Act is a good solution. So we need to keep looking at that. However, if some of the council persons do feel that we need a little bit more time, I understand, and I will support a deferral. So, but keep that in mind. I think that this is a good solution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Segura, before you close, we have a couple of people I like.
Till we do the deferral anyway. We have to do the deferral first.
Mr. Morella, name and address.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 45 years. Councilman Imbastaro, you right on point. That's, you know, when this legislation was put on the table in this council, most of y'all wasn't up here. You're right about that as well. A few of them were. When this was put on the table, I took this podium and I asked the council, I said, unless you are willing to put an amendment to this legislation placing these unclassified employees on the civil service, I cannot support this legislation at this podium, and I won't support it at the ballot box. And I didn't, but it passed anyway. All of this is totally unnecessary. Administrations passed, all they had to do was write a policy, implement a policy. For too long, our employees have been coerced, our unclassified employees, into voting for this one and voting for that one, and if not, they got no more job. Let me make one thing perfectly clear to everybody in this room and anybody who's going to watch this replay. These are our employees. They don't work for the mayor. They don't work for none of y'all. They work for the people who pay their salary. That's who they work for. The same people you all work for. They are appointed on behalf of the people of Kenner, the taxpayers who pay their salary. And all the mayor's job is to do is to supervise and instruct. They work for us. They're our employees. And all they would have had to do, man, was implement a policy years ago. Not these people have the right to vote for the candidate of their choice just like any other citizen in our democracy has. Now all this is totally unnecessary. In the meantime, the meter is running on the taxpayers of this city. And now you got the voters out here now upset saying, well, what did we vote for? What, does our vote really count on anything that we vote for? This is what you got going on out here now, man. So, and writing the policy is, and I want to say this in closing, writing this policy is one thing, enforcing is another. And I encourage any of our employees who is coerced in anything down here during election time, by any council member, by anybody in this administration, I mean anybody, to come to the people. Bring it to your employer, and we'll take care of it. We'll handle it. If I got to handle it by myself, I handle it by myself. And one more thing, when our employees should be required of two things.
30 seconds, Mr. Morella.
And that's all. I got it covered, Greg. They should be required of two things. Do the best job you can possibly do and represent the best interests of the people at all times. Anything else, don't even come into play. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Name and address.
Thank you, Mr. President. Richard Brown, Sessions Lane, Kenner. I want to point out several comments, and I want to say I agree with some of what Mr. Morella said, and I disagree with some of it. I agree with some of what Councilman Imbastaro said, and I disagree with a little. But people need to understand that the federal judge did not say that Kenner doesn't have the right to restrict the political activity of its exempt employees, both civil service and exempt, or political appointees, call them whatever you want to. The judge found very specifically, as I was confident she would, the city does have that right. The city can restrict the political activity of political appointees, department heads, et cetera. The problem with this case, and I sat in on the hearing and I've read all 50 pages of the order twice, is that our charter amendment didn't define political activity. That was her problem. That was the issue. And I'll leave that there. As far as the mayor enacting provisions to restrict political activity, I agree he can, and I agree that under the circumstances, he should. The council had put this charter change on the ballot in 2012 because previous administrations had not done anything to restrict the political activity of their employees. They could have. I want to or disagree, I think, with Dominic in one respect. When the council tried to do this by ordinance before the charter change, the state attorney general didn't say it's unconstitutional. He said the council doesn't have the right to enact a policy governing employees. Employees fall strictly under the control of the mayor. That's why we took the charter amendment route. The attorney general never said never said the city can't do it. He just said the council cannot do it. As far as enacting provisions, Mayor Zahn, I agree, without it, we have nothing. So I'm glad you're doing something. But I do have some problems with the Hatch Act and I've discussed this with 3 of the council members today, and I don't think at the
30
time we
seconds, Mr.
talked,
Brown.
any of them knew what you had proposed. But the Hatch Act basically has 2 tiers. It's got one tier that applies to what's called less restrictive employees, and a second tier that applies to more restricted employees. I think the term is further restricted. And those are employees of a higher standing, higher level. And the Hatch Act prohibits them from political activity both on the clock and off the clock.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, your time.
Yeah, less restricted employees are not so restricted. So I urge us to proceed cautiously and try to do what the will of the people wanted. The people obviously want an apolitical workforce.
Thank you, sir. Name and address?
My name is Greg Tapp. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive.
Well, you want to wait until let's wait.
What I want to caution the mayor and the city attorney when they review this, the Hatch Act, as I have read it, does allow tighter reins as long as it is spelled out of what you're trying to accomplish. If you do it that way, you can still meet the apolitical atmosphere. But it depends on how you define, when you use the Hatch Act, how you're going to define what would be acceptable, what is not acceptable, and spell it out, and then it can be added to it. You don't do that, it won't do you no good. So I just want to caution everyone, especially the mayor and the attorney, that when they do what they're going to put into place, the resolution, that they take a look at how they can structure it to meet what the people were looking for. I have an understanding that, maybe the wording wasn't proper, but as Mr. Brown pointed out, it was because we didn't define we didn't define it properly. And we could still use what we have if we use the right language and the right definitions. Again, y'all have to make the bottom, you have to write it up and make it where it's legal. I can't do that because I'm not an attorney and I don't know how to be one. But I know common sense tells us that if we take it to the 9th degree, spell it out, we can make what we have work, or we could take the Hatch Act and make a modification to accomplish the full stream of what we're trying to do. That's all I have to say, and I would hope that we, move in a very methodical way, address it methodically so that we can get it right, so we don't have to, and regarding looking at the charter, I think there needs to be a committee to look at the charter, the laws that's on the book, how it was passed, because another thing that changes is laws change since the charter probably was looked at, that may bring another situation up like we're having today. All right? And I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Councilman Ipostado, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'd never once said that the Attorney General issued an opinion. I said the city attorney.
Yeah, I did.
So I wasn't talking about, and that may be, I'm sure what Mr. Brown's recitation of what the Attorney General opinion was accurate. I have no, what I was saying is, I can say emphatically, I know the city attorney for the city of Kenner at the time gave an opinion that that particular charter amendment did not pass constitutional muster. And I'm not saying, oh, somebody was right or whatever. All I'm saying is, let's go forward. Let's take the time now and make sure that whatever is put forward, because a charter amendment, unfortunately, we can't just amend it like an ordinance. We've got to go through the process, go through the referendum, even if it is just to clear up a provision or two. I'm just cautioning everyone that I think I want to make sure we don't run down this rabbit hole and have a problem again where, it appears that there was some forewarning that this could happen. And so I just don't want us to get down that road again. Let's put something that is as restrictive as possible that allows it to pass constitutional muster. That's all the only comment I was making there. So, thank you.
Listen, I saw a few lights come on. Everybody has had their stay on this. The only reason why Councilman Ipostado spoke was to address Mr. Brown. Councilman Segura to close on 13A.
Thank you. First off, let me just backtrack a second. A resolution is not a law. A resolution is just a statement, and we are not up here passing any law telling the mayor what he can and cannot do. The policy that he has put in place is his prerogative. He has chosen to do that. I have said, Councilman Ipostado, Councilman Wilmot, that we are very thankful that the mayor took the initiative to move forward a policy at this point, because based upon the injunction that was ordered by the judge, there is no prohibition, guideline, or anything for employees, and that will be in place until a ruling was made. How long that takes, I'm not a lawyer. You guys like billing hours, so I agree it's going to take a while probably. But the point is, we as a city need to do something, as we have said over and over now, that the voters in the spirit said what they wanted. So if the words that were voted on in a referendum have potentially been looked at now by a federal judge and is on the verge of saying they're not constitutional, it's going to be thrown out completely. So, as I said, with the injunction right now, it's as if there is no guidelines, no regulations in place. So for the mayor to step up and put something in place, I don't care if it's the Hatch Act, the Hatch Act A, or the Hatch Act B, whatever the references were about the higher levels, it is something to do right now to tell the employees what they can and cannot do politically while working. So I don't want to confuse anybody by thinking that this resolution is to tell the mayor how to put a policy in place on what to do. If we need to do this through a charter referendum, as mentioned, then a charter committee can be formed and it can become the topic of many topics, and then look at the language that was put there in 2012, I believe it was, and voted on against, as Councilman Ipostado said, the city attorney's judgment to say it was going to be unconstitutional, and now a judge is leaning strongly in that favor since it's been challenged. Didn't happen any sooner just because nobody challenged it. But everybody, as I said before, has a right to file a suit. Members of this city council have filed suit against the city. That's their prerogative. If they wanted the issue to be decided, that's how they do it. They file a suit and ask for a judge to decide. Okay, that cost us money to defend that suit. So we have to take all of these things in place. So what we have, as I said right now, we have nothing, well, at least up until a day ago, we had nothing to tell the employees what they can and cannot do. The fact that the mayor has put up a policy, this resolution that I'm putting up for consideration tonight was hopefully just to get the consensus of this council that they believed, telling the employees this is what you can do and what you cannot do. It may not be the total answer, but it is something better than nothing. And so if any council member just believes that deferring this is the best thing, just to allow the, I don't care what you do in the meantime, well, then that's where the deferral should go. But this resolution was intended just for the purpose of supporting that something was being done in the spirit of what the voters voted on to keep our employees under some control. The policy is right here. It's been handed to all of us. We all received a letter from the mayor a couple of days ago when he was preparing to do this. And let me correct that. I received it. I'm not going to say if Councilman Reynolds got it, but apparently he does not get his correspondence because he says he wasn't aware of it. I got it, and it was addressed to all council members, so I can only assume if his communication cycle works, he's getting this information. The fact, as the mayor reiterated, and I agree, we have agenda meetings with the mayor on a council day to go over topics that are on the agenda. Councilman Reynolds has been absent at last several agenda meetings. I came up this afternoon from my meeting, and he was sitting in his office. I am not going to answer why he doesn't go to those meetings. But that's where we get the information presented to us to make decisions. So, again, this resolution was just to show support that a apolitical workforce is the thing that we want, is the thing that the voters want, and right now they don't have anything. Well, I guess, like I said, the mayor's policy is in place. So if we don't do anything tonight, then we're telling the voters we don't support what he's done, and we think that the employees can do what they want. So I encourage everybody to vote on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I have not spoken as a council chair. I will be asking for a second for a deferral on this. So I want to put on the floor a motion to defer, and I'd like to get a second.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman DeFrances to put on the floor for a deferral. And I think it is only fair, since we had a whole lot of discussion before we vote, to have a discussion prior to the vote on the deferral. So, Councilwoman DeFrances, on the discussion on the deferral,
Absolutely.
you have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I don't think it's appropriate for anyone to determine that if we should vote for a deferral, we believe that our employees can do everything they want and that we don't believe in any kind of guidelines, that it's absolutely hogwash. And I'm very insulted that anyone should ever question my loyalty to this city and to the people that live here. Okay? First of all, that is insulting. So I'll put it to rest. First of all, I did meet with the mayor. Unfortunately, I had to do it very late in the afternoon because of previous commitments, but I did meet with the mayor, and we had a very good discussion out of fairness. We had an excellent discussion. During that discussion, we talked about the fact that we could not do it, according to the Attorney General's opinion, by ordinance. That's what we discussed. Not that there couldn't be a policy, but that we couldn't do it by ordinance. However, I asked the mayor, would you consider doing a policy, or do you have I had not seen the policy yet. If I remember correctly, I said something to the effect, you know, it would be good if the administration put out a policy. At that point, the mayor informed me he did have a policy that he had asked our attorney to work on, and that was one of our good attorneys in our city attorney's office. But we had not seen that policy yet because he didn't get a chance to sign it. Then he called his assistant in and said, even though I haven't had a chance to sign it, would you give a copy to Councilwoman DeFrances? So I received a copy without his signature right before the meeting of what he was going to be proposing. I believe right before this meeting, everyone received a policy with his signature on it. But everyone on this council received it out of fairness right before the meeting started and didn't have a chance to read it. However, I applaud the mayor for doing the very thing that I was hoping he would do, and that is put a policy in place. The Attorney General said nothing about he couldn't put a policy. He only talked about an ordinance. And so I wanted to make that point very, very clear, that this is something totally different. I haven't had, honestly, a chance to read it either, so I can't tell you exactly what it says. And I did notice that I believe that there was the intent, and I'm guessing, Mayor, and correct me, and you can give me a heads up or down, the intent of the administration, had they had the opportunity to do so, because there is a blank page here, I assume if they had the opportunity, they probably would have passed it out or put it out for the council to see prior to the meeting. But unfortunately, that was impossible. But we did get it. The bottom line is every councilman here did get it. But again, it happened before the meeting. Mayor, did you want to comment on that? Out of fairness, I have to give you the opportunity to do that.
Mayor Zahn, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Councilwoman DeFranchise
I
gave
think-
it to you before that, but
Again,
you go
I
right
think
in.
I think we're getting off the subject. And
But that's
look,
why I think we need a deferral, is what I
Right.
was getting to.
Right, but just, and this is no disrespect to any council member up there.
Is this on the deferral, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not asking for your permission.
Oh,
I'm
I know.
asking for your support.
I
There's a
understand that.
difference. And in deferring it, that's fine. But just for clarification, that you got a copy of the unsigned because we had already signed it
Mm-hmm.
and sent it to our employees. But we talked about the resolution. I'm trying to stick on the deferral, Councilman. It's a little tough,
you.
but I'm trying to clarify some things, and I'm not saying you're wrong. We talked on the resolution,
Mm-hmm.
what the policy is for your support of the resolution. Whether you all defer this, pass this, or don't support it in the future because it looks like it's getting deferred, that's fine. I just think that the council should support an apolitical workforce. And that's all the reason was Councilman Segura was asking for that. So I just want to clarify why you got what you got. You were going to get a signed copy tonight,
No, we
which
knew
we'd already told them to do, but I gave you the copy real quick that Ed Rapier, one of our city attorneys, had with him present at the time to clear up any kind of confusion. Because again, unfortunately, and we've come a long way since Tuesday, but after the intervention was dropped, you were then therefore privy to what we were doing without a lawsuit in place. And that's why I was glad to share that with you this afternoon, Councilman.
I appreciate that. What I'm simply saying is, the reason I think that a deferral is appropriate is because it
That's
says,
fine.
a resolution in support of the mayor's implementation of a policy establishing an apolitical workforce, and then it goes on to that. The problem is, when you're saying we support his implementation of it, you're not sure exactly what we're talking about other than it being an apolitical workforce. And you know that you yourself, Mayor, said that I've been very vocal about supporting the will of the people. And the will of the people said we want an apolitical workforce. So I am 1,000, not 100, 1,000% in support of what the people want. I simply meant that the resolution says we should be supporting, we want support for you for what you're doing. And it's always good to know exactly what we're, not just that it's apolitical, but a little bit more of exactly what it entails.
I believe-
And that's the only reason I'm agreeing to have a one-meeting deferral. Not because I think they should be doing whatever they please in the interim, because I do respect the people that work for the city of Kenner. I do respect our directors. And I don't think that they, in their wildest dreams, feel like if we don't vote on it tonight, hey, that's a go-ahead and we can do whatever we please. I think they're more professional than that. And I give them credit for being more professional than that they would go out and feel that that is what this council would be doing by doing a one-meeting deferral. So I give credit to them, and I want them to know it.
Look, the will of the people is first for me. The will of the council tonight is up to this council. The policy's there, the deferral's up to this council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Segura, did you want to speak on the deferral? Or
I'd
just
just like to comment that my comments, as I said earlier, were that this resolution was to approve.
on the deferral,
I'll
Councilman?
get to that it was to give support, but if it's the decision of the majority of this council tonight because of their not getting information as they claim, then I'll go along with a deferral. But it by no means that I'm not in favor of approving this in the future, because I strongly believe it does mean we can direct our employees on what they can do politically.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Reynolds, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just what the mayor said, this is his policy. This council does not have to pass anything tonight. A deferral doesn't affect the policy, so I'm speaking on the deferral. It doesn't, whether we defer it or not, really doesn't matter. The mayor has established a policy. He has a right to do that according to the charter, and he's done that. That's his right. Now, as far as there was some comments about I'm not getting my information and all, and this may be a little bit off of the deferral, but, you know, I'm tired of being attacked up here. Councilmember Segura, you don't know what information I get.
Councilman Reynolds, please stick to the deferral.
So I just wanted to make that point clear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And I don't see any more lights on the agenda. I'm going to, before I call it to a vote, without going into a whole lot of the stuff we've already discussed, obviously this is a lot of, everybody had a chance to put their opinion out there, and this is the main reason why I asked for the deferral, because of the information. It was meaty, and I have just to be able to put something on the supplemental as opposed to putting it out there to giving it the proper course, I think sometimes it's not the right thing to do, depending on what it is. And this is one subject that I think should not go on the supplemental. So without any further delay, I'm going to call it to a vote now on the deferral, and I'd like to thank everybody for their support. And then to be able to talk about it and to express yourself and give the public your opinion on this. So we're going to call it to a vote. Motion by Councilwoman Carroll, second by
Councilwoman DeFrances.
Councilwoman DeFrances for a one-meeting deferral. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
We doing a roll call? Okay, aye.
Councilman Reno?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 6-0 for a one-meeting deferral. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,268, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Barrier Construction Company, LLC, received June 14, 2017, by the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, DOTD, in the amount of $777,282.24 for Williams Boulevard and US 61 intersection improvements, state project number H.011457, federal aid project number H.011457, and Kenner Public Works number 2014-001C-CIP.
Motion by Councilman Segura, second by Councilman Wilmot. But before the vote, Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just in opening on this, I was going to ask our Public Works to, I guess, give us an understanding of what improvements are part of this $777,000 project at Williams and Airline.
Improvements, there's many things there. We have signal improvements. We have intersection improvements that include, there's actually a beautification aspect of this where we have some stamped concrete in there. We have ADA improvements. We have new striping. Basically, you'll have a combination of safety and beautification at this intersection.
Okay. It came up at the agenda meeting that wasn't quite sure what it was going to involve, because I know there's several intersections also due for improvements, Williams and Vets, but I knew particularly what was going to go on at Williams and Vets, so wanted to make clear that what you just said was happening here, because this affects certainly the whole city, but Councilman Carroll and I's districts are kind of intermesh right there, so we need to be able to explain to our constituents certainly what goes on, but everybody uses it a lot, so hopefully everybody will be happy with those improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For the vote, motion by Councilman Segura, second by Councilman Wilmot to accept. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,269, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Christmas Village LLC to supply Christmas lighting on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 17-6400 in an amount not to exceed $75,000 per year for the Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilman Impastato, second by Councilman Wilmot. But before the vote, Mr. Maricoli, I have just one question as it relates to this. The 75,000 is the cap, obviously, and this is to ensure every facility that we will have during the Christmas season will be able to use this contract to ensure that the lights are bright in 1, 2, or 3 facilities, correct?
Correct. This is actually just for the lighting to purchase and, the lighting that goes around the facilities.
Thank you.
This isn't specifically going to be only used at Christmas Village.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Wait, Mr. Marico.
Councilman Segura is first. That was from last time. Didn't change. Councilman Impastato.
You can go. Go ahead, Keith.
I just have a question. Is this the same business that we were purchasing lights for before? Is this something new, or is this?
I believe so. I actually have these Christmas lights and everything were done by Public Works prior, and now it's done by General Services. This is going to be, some of these are going to be used for the Christmas Village and the different things. I don't know if it's the exact same person that was we were purchasing from before.
Vendor is what I was looking for.
Yes,
The same
correct. I'm
vendor.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm unaware if it is or not.
I didn't think you saw it.
Okay.
I didn't.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Maricoli. We may not want to leave yet. Mayor Zahn, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, so Christmas Village is the name of the company. It's not for the Christmas Village. It might be some for our Christmas Village, which is moving to District 5, which we've talked to you about. But I'm spoiling the surprise now. So we need to, and I've spoken to a few of the council members, probably reached out to everybody, but you, Councilman Segura and Councilman Reynolds, need to know for sure that we are looking at stringing lights across Williams Boulevard to say Merry Christmas to everybody again. That's something we had stopped a while back, and Christmas Village is the vendor that is going to supply that. I wanted to make a bigger announcement later on, but that's what these lights are for. So I don't want it to get screwed up with Christmas Village as the vendor for the Christmas Village that we have. It's also for Christmas, display that we'll have on Williams Boulevard.
Yes, thank you. And I had to read the details, which is the company is located on Veterans.
Exactly.
So the first time I read it, I was kind of
We have
thrown.
a Christmas depot in the city of Kenner. but
Exactly.
These people
So
won the bid.
I did a little homework and I realized it's on Veterans.
Christmas
So
Village.
thank you for that clarification.
Christmas Village, the vendor for our Christmas Village and for our Christmas display on Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Impastato, you have the floor, sir.
I just want to thank y'all for letting me move on it as the person who has the most obnoxious Christmas display on the council dais. This is of particular importance to me. I very much appreciate it. But if the city's display is bigger than mine, I promise to spend more money and make mine more obnoxious.
So we're gonna call it to a vote on everything. Motion by Councilman Impastato, second by Councilman Wilmot to accept. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,270, an ordinance approving an agreement with Rodell, Parsons, Koscho, Blount, Balhoff, and McAllister, a law corporation, in an amount not to exceed $150,000 annually.
Motion by Councilwoman DeFranchise, second by Councilman Reynolds to accept. Council, please vote.
Oh,
Sorry about that. Sorry, hold on.
question.
Councilman Reynolds, I have one quick question.
thank you, Mr. President. Can the administration explain, or the legal department explain
Yes, sir.
a little bit about this contract?
Yes, sir. These are our attorneys, Tim Hardy and Joyce Matthews, that handle our wastewater operations and, DEQ review. We've had a contract with them for many years. They're very good attorneys, and this is just renewal of a contract.
Thank you. I just wanted to put it on the record so people knew what it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Motion by Councilwoman DeFranchis, second by Councilman Reynolds to accept. Council, please vote. Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 12,271, an ordinance approving change order number 1 to the contract with Diamond Electrical Company Incorporated dated December 5th, 2016, regarding traffic signal upgrades at the intersection of West Esplanade Avenue and Chateau Boulevard and West Metairie Avenue at Roosevelt Boulevard, state project number H.011.463.6, federal aid project number H.011.463, City of Kenner project number 2014-012-RB, to increase the assembly period by 30 calendar days.
Motion by Councilman Segura, second by Councilman Reynolds to accept. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 12,272, an ordinance ratifying an emergency repair of the Barbary Gym air conditioning system in the amount of $11,600 by Beacon Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Incorporated for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Impastato to accept. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance amending portions of Chapter 16 entitled Vehicles for Hire of the Kenner Code of Ordinances as per the ordinance contained herein. Item 16B is an ordinance authorizing a public hearing and amending ordinance number 11,278 adopted on May 18, 2017 to correct the proposed grant allocations with the official grant allocations received for the fiscal year 2017 annual action plan of the CDBG and Home Investment Partnership Program for the Community Development Department. Item 16C is an ordinance authorizing repair to Case 850K Dozer Unit 2101 by Lee Contractor Company, an authorized dealer, in the amount of $32,702.61 for the Department of Public Works Division of Streets and Drainage. Item 16D is an ordinance amending ordinance 11,283 to correct erroneous vehicle information for donation to the Town of Amite Police Department. Item 16E is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Rex A. Hemel Company Incorporated for the Punch Train Center surge protection in accordance with bid number 17-6398 and an amount not to exceed $18,370. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees.
Councilman Reynolds, you have the floor, sir.
Nope.
Nope, you're
sorry.
gone?
I got to hit cancel.
Isn't working. Councilman Impastato, did you?
Please.
You have the floor.
Yeah. Last week, District 5, we had our 14th, I believe, town hall meeting in District 5, which was very well attended. We had, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 people, I would guess, but had a lot of good information exchanged, a lot of good response. One of the things that came out from it, and it's one of the reasons that we do it, is to get information from our constituents to find out what's going on, are there things that need to be addressed. Our friend, Mr. Morella, brought up again an issue related to the East Loyola, I guess, bridge, I guess you'd call it, the connector road from one side of East Loyola to Joe Yenny, having been involved in a wreck. And Mr. Brian Jones, our acting, our current Public Works Director, did go out and assess the situation. And Mr. Morella, I want to thank you because you're right. Yeah, there's definitely some damage to it that it appears is not of structural concern to the engineers, but is not providing the, I guess, the barrier that's necessary to protect. So in connection, what we're looking for now is to see whether that is going to be able to be done as a piggyback to a Jefferson Parish contract or a current contract we have here to make sure it's done in the most cost-efficient manner, still with safety. We're not going to be making temporary repairs because we don't want to suggest to people that it's 100% fixed, because for the safety reasons. We don't want kids leaning on it or people leaning, that kind of thing. So we're going to leave it in the condition it's in because it's not presenting, or so we're told by the engineers, not presenting a structural concern to the bridge and the traversability of it, but we will be in the process of getting the permanent fix in. So thanks for bringing it to our attention, Al. All right,
Thank you, Councilman.
that is all. Thank you.
Councilman Wilmot, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind folks out there that the Lanyard Dog Show started today, being Thursday, August 3rd, and it goes through Sunday, August 6th. It's a big event at the Pontchartrain Center, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. They have like 10 dog shows during that time. It's fascinating. Been a few times myself, and it's something quite interesting to see. So I just wanted to remind folks it is ongoing this weekend. So enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Reynolds, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to remind everybody that there are upcoming meetings regarding the UDC for boats, RVs, and trailers. On August 9th, they'll have a meeting in the pavilion at 7 p.m. Holly Heights, Westwood, Chateau Terre subdivisions. August 10th, District 3, Gladys Gym, 7 p.m., 42 Nassau. August 16th, Chateau Lakefront subdivision at the Pavilion at 7 o'clock. August 24th, Lincoln Matter, MLK Center, 6 p.m. On September 26th, Canes Brulee, again at the Pavilion at 7 p.m. And September 27th, Chateau Civic Association at the Pavilion at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Oh, yes, thank you. I was going to give those dates also, but thanks to Councilman Reynolds. But there are some additional dates that are being worked on because, as he read, these were the dates that the committee made a commitment to meet with all of the civic associations. So it's taken a little time to get their schedules and the committee's time together. So those are all of the dates for the civic associations. We are now setting up the dates. Looks like because of location, City Hall, Pavilion, calendar-wise, in November for citywide public meetings. So there will be 2 citywide public meetings. As he said, these were civic association meetings that we've asked to attend, and even though once their meetings are their meetings, but once we show up, it becomes the public meeting for that purpose. Everyone is still invited to go to those portions of the meeting. I'm not going to invite you to their civic association meeting. That's up to the civic association. But the public meetings, the 2 that we will publish, we're scheduling the dates in November. One is to be held here in the council chambers, one at the Pavilion, and then that certainly is open unequivocally to all the public, and we will get those notices out, locking those dates in shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And before we get to the next phase of the meeting, I'd like to thank the administration, the Recreation Department, and the Community Development Director we reopened the splash park in District 1. There were some administrative changes that delayed that, and after we've worked out all of the kinks, the park is now open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and because of the delay, we will probably extend the date, considering the fact that we have perfect weather. It doesn't get cold here a lot, so we'll be able to have it a little bit longer. So thanks again for the support, and it's in District 1, but it's open to everybody in the public. Please come out and enjoy the splash park. Thank you. That's it, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Item 18 is new business. Item 18A, the administration requests an executive session to be scheduled and placed on the August 3rd, 2017 council agenda pursuant to the provisions of LARS 42:17. The closed session discussion concerns the status of the litigation matter, which should be advertised as follows. An executive session to discuss the following litigation matter: Kenner Firefighters Association Local 1427 IAFF et al. Versus City of Kenner 24th Judicial District Court, docket 687-19, Division O.
So we have to vote on going into executive.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion by Councilwoman DeFranchise, second by Councilman Segura, to move into executive session. Council, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Email yesterday about the trees, and we sent them an email back saying, we will make a work order, and we sent it to Kevin saying, please make a work order. As soon as my guys get available, we were gonna go do it. And we never said anything about that we don't have money. Oh, we'll do it.
I think we are. We're going to call the meeting back to order. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Item 19 is unfinished business and our motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Councilwoman DeFranchise?
No,
No?
I'm sorry, it's from before.
Okay. So we do have some people in the audience wanting to speak. First, Mr. Al Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 45 years. I want to reiterate what Councilman Impastato said a little earlier. I did pose that to you at your town hall meeting, and the response I got from you at the town hall meeting wasn't acceptable to me, because you said you wasn't aware of any damages on that bridge when I brought it to you on June 15th. But after tonight, the response you gave tonight is acceptable, and I do accept it, okay? Now, I want to say this to the Public Works Department, okay? I'm willing to work with you, and I'm willing to give you a reasonable amount of time to repair that rail on that bridge, but make no mistake about it, once I feel that you've had a reasonable amount of time and nothing has been done, it will be an issue down here at every council meeting until something is done. So, but I'm willing to work with you and give you a reasonable amount of time, okay? Now, next item on my agenda, I think a proclamation is appropriate, is in order for one of our oldest citizens, if not the oldest, in the city of Kenner, Mr. Pat Clancy, 97 years old, World War II veteran, member of our post 7732, co-founder of 7732, and a lifetime resident of the city of Kenner. I think he deserves a proclamation. He's having a little problem right now getting around. So if the council does give him this proclamation, I would like to know if it would be appropriate, if he can't come down here for this proclamation, if it would be possible for our commander of our post to accept a proclamation on his behalf and on the behalf of the members of my post, 7732. So I want to pose that as a question. Mazan, you want to answer that?
Absolutely. If you could get us all the information, we'd be glad to put it on the next council agenda, or if you want to tell us when he's available, if we could do that. If not, we'll do it as quickly as we can, but we need the information from you, if you could do that.
I'll get you the information. As a matter of fact, I got a brother member of my post fixing to come up here right behind me.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get together and we'll get you the information, and I'd like to get this done as soon as I can.
You'll be the contact person.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mr.
Anybody got any comments, any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment, Mr. Morella. Thanks, and I'm sure the gentleman will be receiving the proclamation, and he should be receiving it. But as far as it relates to a number of people who are older in the city of Kenner, we've had a number of people who are 100 years old in District 1 that have received proclamations. So there's a list, there's a long line for that population. So, and we bless them all, thank them all for their services to the city of Kenner.
And his service to his country, World War II.
And service to the country.
Don't
thank you,
forget that
thank you for bringing him to our attention.
All right, thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fred Miller.
At least I don't feel like I'm walking into rattlesnakes today. Fred Miller, 4005 Delaware. Been in Kenner most of my life. I'm 67. But I'd like to reiterate what Al Murillo said about Pat Clancy. Everybody knows the Clancy family. They got a picture in the hall of the Clancy home. They were one of the biggest family members in this city at one time. And he is very poor. I'm also the junior vice commander for Kenner Post 7732. And that's my job to keep track of our members and help him out. And he is in a bad way. He's dizzy, he's hard walking, but he tries to get around. And this all just came up in the last 8 months or so. Before that, he was out dancing 2 nights a week. And I'm glad to see we're finally doing something on the boat issue. So I'm not even going to mention anything other than that. I will be at those meetings you all mentioned, though. But I could also be a contact person for Mr. Mayor to call me for any information he needs on Pat Clancy. And that's all I got to say. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Greg Teff. Name and address, Mr. Teff.
My name is Greg Taft. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. I want to bring up that there's a, as I understand it, Kenner Ordinance 11.05B that provides that political signs for an election can be displayed no earlier than 60 days prior to the election day, which would be August the 15th, I believe. There is a limo bus. I'm talking about a big limo bus that is parked in the parking lot closest to Chateau Boulevard, immediately outside of the Chateau Cafe. Facing, as you're going down the street, you can see it in any direction. I passed it yesterday when I went to CVS to get a prescription for my wife, and it was still there again today. It's there all day. It doesn't move. Now, it may move at night because I haven't been out there at night yet, but as far as I can tell, it has not moved. And it's very interesting with the political sign. There's no license plate on that vehicle. If it is, it's got a white thing covering it. It also looks like it belongs to a company because it has the logo on it, or the lettering on it that is required when you have a bus that does operation. The thing is, I don't know how this can be proper, and I wish someone could tell me, is this proper to have something that big before it's time to put a sign out for political reasons? Because I don't think it's appropriate.
Can I address it, Councilman?
Yes, sir. Councilman, you have the floor.
I'm sure the city attorney will give you the legal opinion. That's my bus, Greg. Let me correct a few misstatements, though. It does move. I drive it, probably much to the chagrin of the traveling public, okay? But I do. It does move, okay? Pretty much daily, okay? I do park it in the same spot. There has been a license plate applied for. I own it, by the way. A company does not own it.
Like I said, it's just got a white.
I'm responding. Let me respond. I'm just letting you know. And you know it was mine, so you could have called me and asked me, and I probably could have answered a lot of this, but that's okay. That's okay.
I'm more concerned about.
No, I'm not finished. Thank you. It has a license plate that's been applied for, along with the title transfer. It has not arrived. It does not have a temp tag at the moment. I wasn't really hiding whose it was. since my name's all over it, okay? So it was not an
No,
attempt.
no, I'm talking about, it looks like a company vehicle.
Yeah, it was once a limo bus, okay? I purchased it legally, all above board. Happy to give you anything like that. I'm sure the city attorney will give you the interpretation of whether or not signs on vehicles are permissible, and I will tell you, during the mayor's race last year, we went through this issue ad nauseum when I was council president. So I'm not going to give the city attorney's opinion. If it's found to violate, we will happily tuck it away somewhere for a couple of weeks. Rest assured, my intention is not to violate any rules at all. So whatever the city attorney says, we'll happily abide for. But I want to make it clear, it does not sit there without moving. Now, it's not driving 20.
As I stated, I know it's there during the day. It's been there 2 days in a row. Now, whether you move it at night or not, I don't know that.
Gotcha.
But I do know that during the day, 2 days in a row, it looks like it's close to the same spot, but I won't even say it was the same spot. It's just that it's being so big and it doesn't look like it's, you know, it sits there all day long. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily proper. I also don't think
30
the
seconds, Mr.
size
Teff.
is proper. I mean, it's a pretty big sign. So I'm not sure, you know, all I'm saying is that I thought there was a 60-day.
Got it.
I know that traveling cars have them, because I see quite a few cars that's got stuff on them. But this one is sitting, and that's what concerned me, and it's so big that, you know, it's like it's not fair or something.
Mr. Teff, your time is up, Mr. Teff, but if
Trust me,
Councilman,
if it violates a rule, I will happily comply with whatever the rules are. I'm confident it does not, but I would defer to our city attorney, so.
Thank you.
Attorney Roussel, do you want to?
Yes, sir. As Councilmember Impastato pointed out so eloquently, this was looked at and fleshed out for the election recently for mayor. This is a vehicle with a wrap on it. We don't consider it in the definition of a political sign. It's more akin to a billboard. There is, in fact, a billboard that is, I think, 2 of them that are in the city of Kenner for the other candidate. So, first of all, it's a Jefferson Parish election, so, you know, Kenner ordinances are, I guess, specific to, you know, elections for Kenner candidates, but it doesn't fit the definition of a political sign, sir, so it doesn't violate any of our ordinances concerning the time frame within which you can put out a political sign.
But there is a size.
Mr. Teff, I'm going to give you another minute to respond. One more minute, okay?
Okay, I know there's a size restriction.
Well, it's our legal opinion, sir, I guess what I'm trying to explain to you, that it is not a political sign. So the fact that you're applying a size that is applicable to political signs, if it doesn't fit the definition of a sign, it's not a political sign.
Even though it is sitting there.
It's like a billboard, sir, which are allowed in the code.
Because even Kenner has
It's a moving
restrictions on
billboard.
signs for businesses.
It's a moving billboard, albeit it's a billboard. So the other candidate has a billboard clearly above Messina's Restaurant on Williams Boulevard. It's our opinion that this is a billboard. It's a moving billboard, but it's a billboard nonetheless.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Teff.
thank you.
Ms. Samantha Lamone? Name and address, Ms. Lamone.
Samantha Lemoyne, 832 Minden Avenue. On and off for the past 9 years, I have come to meetings and in some way, shape, or form address the fact that we have 18-wheelers that go down our street.
Ms. Lamone, can you move the mic up? There you go.
Better. We have 18-wheelers that come down our street because our street runs parallel to the Crossroads Center warehouse. And these truck drivers, their response is that they're using a GPS that directs them to our street, which is residential street. We're at the point now where we went from no signs to 1 sign to 3 no truck signs. August 9th, 1 truck made it all the way to the dead end of our street, ripped the electrical line completely from the house, off of their box, damaging the entire box, their electrical meter, energy had to come out, and this person tried to flee. 3 weeks and 2 days later, this past Tuesday, we have another one that comes down our street. This time, they tried to make the block. They're hitting the pole, cracking it, ripping off internet lines, electrical lines. My next door neighbor has burnt smell in her 2-month-old baby's room, which she's still investigating what's going on the inside of her house. At this point in time, I did contact Mr. Carroll, told him what was going on. The past 2 days, each day, yesterday and today, another 18-wheeler. We're able to catch them sometimes. They have to back out blindly on the airline. That's putting the public at risk. So at what point, I don't know what to do at this point. We have 3 signs. You know, Airline Highway is a state highway. So do we need to contact the state DOTD, get some kind of signage on Airline? You know, it was suggested to me a few minutes ago, what if we get a no truck sign on Minden that's solar powered with some flashing lights to bring their attention? You know, hey, no trucks. There's a dead end sign after the first block. They still pass by everything. And the first incident majorly on July 9th, their house could have caught on fire. This is scary. I have 2 kids. There are many kids in this neighborhood, and they're just flying down the street, passing by everything. What if they try to go around the corner and they hit the electrical pole and it actually falls, injuring somebody, you know, or causes a house fire? This is a problem, and it's getting worse.
Thank you, Ms. Lamone. And just to be able to open our conversation up to the public, you did call the office. I think we had a lengthy conversation as it relates to this. I did say that, you know, this is, well, first let me back up. How is the family doing next door? Did they get their electricity?
They're still dealing with issues on the inside as far as what's been, I'll call it fried, what's not, and trying to make sure that it is safe.
Okay, well, and Entergy has not turned on the,
Entergy's been out and turned them on.
so they are on.
Now, they don't have internet as of currently, and she is a work-at-home mom who relies on the internet.
Okay.
And she's waiting for AT&T to come back out for that.
Well, I'm glad that the Entergy did come out, as we said, and made a call to them to ensure them that there's some infants, babies involved. So I also explained that this is a concern throughout the whole city. A number of neighborhoods have large trucks that sometimes come down the streets in their neighborhood. And I admittedly that, you know, how do we fix this other than having a police officer on the corners where this is happening? And that is not feasible for our tax dollars to have a police officer sit there for so many hours. So in order for us to be able to regulate this, if a policeman happens to see it, obviously they will address it. If the residents are able to get the license plate for a particular company, that trucks are coming down, particularly on a regular basis, which are discarding the signs, we can do that. I also said that I'll be contacting the DOTD about putting signage, as we talked about, on Airline Highway. Also put in a work order to be able to put additional no truck signs on existing signs already that says no parking. So, you know, there is no one answer here. We are working on it like all of us are working. We get the calls all the time. So that's where we are today. And, you know, it's something that we have to monitor, obviously. I also will be having a conversation with the trucking company next door because, as you and I said, it's not mostly their truck drivers. It's people who are coming in for the first time that come down the street. And once they get down the street to the sign and they missed it, now what do? They're in limbo. They have to literally back up because those large trucks, that's all they can do. So I will say that we will continue to work on this, continue to be able to address the problem as we are having this concern over the whole city. But there is no absolute answer right now other than for us to keep monitoring it, to get the support from the community, and to be able for us to, and to let our police department know in their routes to be able to maybe a little bit more vigilant in watching what goes on in the neighborhood. Councilman Segura also would like to say something before you leave.
Yes, thank you. I sympathize your dilemma because where I live, I'm residential and right across the street is commercial. So tractor trailer trucks are allowed to come down my street and I have them ripping down same things, the utility lines. But one thing that I will encourage you is that when I would chase after them, first thing I did was get a ruler and measure the top of their truck down to the street to see if they were too high. For the most part, all of the trucks are at the legal height requirement that they have to be and no higher. So the problem is the energy line, the Cox line, the phone lines are too low. So I got with each of those utilities and had them go down the street and raise their lines to the proper height that they needed to so that these trucks could come down. And that doesn't take away that they shouldn't be on your street because you're not a commercial, but I would point you in that direction to get Cox, AT&T, and Energy to put their lines at the proper height. They tend to sag over time and they don't pay attention. So when a wayward truck does go there, they are too low and the truck is generally the proper height. That's an answer to the ripping down of the utilities.
I'll agree with you to an extent in that I've had my lines ripped off my house causing damage, and every time it's happened to me or one of my nearby neighbors, we've had them put it as high up on the pole as they can. The problem is, I'm in the first block. They come down, they say, oops, I'm not supposed to be here. If they get to that point, if not, they're just trying to haul butt around the corner. And in that turning to try and make it, which they can't, in backing out is where they're catching everything, even though it's as high up on the pole as it can go.
Attorney Fauché, I think you were trying to get my attention on this one.
Was that because you saw me jumping up and down and waving?
You have the floor.
What we'd like to do at this point also is get both the Public Works Department to look at it from a traffic engineering perspective to see if there's something we may have missed, some sign or something we can add, and then code to talk to us, please, about enhanced enforcement. So at that point, if we can just look at this location, and obviously it's through other places throughout the city, but if we can sit down and focus on this location and then use that as see if there's any other recommendations we can make, whether it's to the energy companies, whether it's for additional signage that we could come up with, if it's DOTD for different widths of turning or something. We'll look and see if there's anything else we can propose, because at the very least, we can try to see what we can do to help.
Okay.
Yes, and we have, I haven't forgot, I just want to ask, we have started the process. I have right now have a study in the Veteran Heights. So I'm identifying all the areas that's having more than one or two or three concerns. We're starting there, and we will have the study done to see what we can do to try to alleviate some of the neighbors' concerns. But I appreciate that. I have not contacted Entergy, Cox, AT&T, Uverse also about raising to the proper height. That is something, thank you, Councilman Segura, we can do also. So there's little things like that I think is going to help overall. Councilman Reynolds, you have the floor.
I just want to ask one question. Are these trucks going to the same location? Do you know?
Yes, they're all trying to get to the Crossroads Center warehouse, which is located at 32 East Airline.
So can I suggest to the administration that maybe we contact them and maybe they can put a notice out to the trucks that deliver to them on a regular basis? I'm not saying it's going to catch everything, but it may eliminate a lot of problems if they notify their drivers, and I'm sure that they have different drivers that come all the time. So, but, they would at least notify their shipping companies. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Zahn, you have the floor.
And we will do that because the owner of Crossroads Centers, as we all know, is Ronnie Maines. He's been a friend of the city of Kenner. He does a lot of things, a lot of charitable work. So as soon as we notify him of this incident and how it's going on, I'm sure, rest assured, he'll get right on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Wilmot, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask, too, as far as, this is Minden Street? Is that the proper
Minden
street?
Avenue is
Minden
what
Avenue.
it says.
And you're in the first block of Minden?
Yes, sir.
And it's a dead end, pretty much. If you go straight, it's a dead end, correct?
Yes, sir. There's one block, and I'm in the first block, there's a stop sign. The crossroad is Bonner, which then brings you to Curtis. We're parallel to Curtis. And then past the stop sign, it dead ends at the railroad track.
So it's accidentally that these trucks are coming down your street? They're just,
Right.
okay. So, and I might suggest that we contact our legislators who represent that district as well on behalf of the state, and maybe we can get some signs erected or something on Airline Highway. Sometimes they will do a study. The state will actually come out and they'll have engineers come out on their behalf and decide whether or not sign placement is necessary. And again, I think if you've had this problem several times, you would be a good point of contact for them to talk to. And sometimes they go out there, and if they have a truck that comes down the street, they will come out and take a look at it, and they look at numbers and so forth, and it might be helpful to have a street sign on Airline Highway so they know maybe it'll cut down some of that problem for you. So that's just a suggestion that we can look at. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilman Wilmot, that is exactly what we were talking about earlier, but since you have a better Rolodex for the people in the state legislature, you know, I'll be obviously looking for some of your support in making those calls. So thank you. Thank you. Ms. Lamone, you have another minute if you want to. Oh, Councilman Segura, you have more.
Well, if I could, I just
Yes.
one more suggestion, and I was going to ask comment on Debbie's Roche's comments, but also code or public works. Just like on a parking garage where when you drive in, it's got that little tube hanging that says if you bump it, you're too low. Can we erect something across the street right at the entrance that says, hey, you're too low when you bump it?
I was going to say, your first
Well, they can't
responders
be
are not going to
higher than a truck. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Fire department again, I understand.
Yes. So, Ms. Lamone, please, in closing, a minute, please, any closing remarks?
No, I appreciate any help we can get. You know, I know that it does happen throughout the city. I just feel like right now we're at a point where this has been pretty serious. You know, if it's a potential house catching on fire, you know, from one neighbor, another one, maybe not, where you have a burning electrical smell in her infant's room. That's scary. She is getting it checked, and she's already disconnected some things and whatnot. But I'm saying it's scary, you know, that at any given time they can come flying down our street. And it is something, you know, I feel we need to address as many ways as possible. I feel like I've doing what I can. I've discussed with you some options, and I'm trying to put it out on the table and get as many suggestions as we can, and I appreciate, you know, everything everybody's suggesting. And
Thank you.
hopefully we can move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Deborah Williams? Okay. Ms. Elizabeth Lewis? Ms. Lewis? Come on up, Ms. Lewis. Name and address, Ms. Lewis. You're not acting shy, are you? Because you're never shy with me. Okay.
My address is 731 Clay Street, Apartment B, Kenner, Louisiana.
All right, that's better.
Okay. Good evening.
Good
And I would like to, my question is this? It works. All right. I got it.
It's on.
I got it. Okay. Is there any way that you all can stop those dump trucks from entering on Clay Street? There's a problem with that. Because when they come down there, they're making the street sink. One side is higher or lower than the other. So is there any way possible that you all can work with them with that?
Well, I guess this also goes into line what Ms. Lamone was talking about, illegal trucks coming down the street. So there are regulations for certain size trucks coming through the neighborhood. If the truck is deemed too large, then we can obviously put a sign up and say no truck route to be able to eliminate the trucks or too large trucks coming down the street. So signage would help first, particularly on Airline. Then we go back to the DOTD and also for Clay Street or any of the streets within the area. So yes, we can help with that.
Thank you. And one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when you come off Williams Boulevard and you're coming on to Airline to take that left, and if you come down to Clay Street to take a right. Right. Right at that corner, when you make this turn here, you have to be very careful because where the sidewalk is here, then you have to be cautious not to like turn and you're gonna just hit part of it where the sidewalk end, you know, right there. This is the sidewalk. They make a turn here. They're gonna make a right turn coming here. You have to be very cautious not to hit that little curve that's on the sidewalk because of it's wider on this side than it is on the right side. If you're going out, you're okay, but over here, it's not wide enough.
Okay. We'll speak to the Public Works Director about getting someone to assess that situation, Ms. Lewis, and I'll get back with you once they go out, do an assessment, get back with you and see what we can do to alleviate that concern that we have.
Right. And one more question.
You got 30 seconds.
They have started to dumping dirt in that empty lot, the part that you all say belongs to the railroad company or something, or whatever there is. They've started to emptying dirt over there. There's a pile out there now. Actually, this man just cleaned his truck. He just dumped it all in there.
So you're saying that people are using it as a dump yard?
Yes.
Okay.
They're taking it for a dump.
Okay, that is something also we will be able to let the chief know, and we can it's private property, but I think we'll be able to talk to them about putting a sign up saying no dumping.
Oh, I
And
would appreciate
if people don't see or late at night, you know, they will sneak in and try to do all sorts of stuff. But we can do that, working with the property owners.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Okay, well, thank you.
Have a nice day.
All righty.
Talk to you soon. Ms. Williams, are you back?
No, she's not back.
Yes, she is, Ms. Lewis. It's name and address.
My name is Deborah Williams, and I stay at 723 Clay Street. I'm here to see about storage areas that they're saying that they're going to put across the street from my house, which there is a school in that area also. We don't want that. So each time they have the meeting, it's canceled. Every time for code enforcement, I don't know if that's what it is, but code enforcement, the meeting is always canceled. So we're trying to find out what the purpose of it being canceled. Is they trying to sneak this in on us and we're not knowing? But we are trying to stop that. It's a mini storage that they're supposed to be putting on Clay Street and Webster. Clay Street and Airline.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And as you know, we've had numerous conversations and ongoing, so I appreciate you coming tonight. There may be some other people here to talk about that,
Yes,
so
there is.
we're going to let everybody talk, and then we'll be able to address it one time.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Otis Tucker. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Mr. Earl Smith. Name and address, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. My name is Earl Smith, and I reside at 613 Hanson Avenue, Kenner. And thank you for giving me the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. I'll make my comment very shortly. One is a question. Since there's so many concerns about the issue regarding the Washington Elementary School and the project that's proposed, why haven't we had a community meeting about it so that people can ask the questions? The other thing is I'm going to ask and recommend that we have a community meeting so that some of the questions that people have can be answered. Irregardless what the outcome may be, I think it's just incumbent upon the councilman to have a public hearing in the community. And there are many venues. There's the Old Kenner Civics Association. There is the Washington Elementary School and many other places, that this hearing could be held and there could be someone there to answer specific questions about the project and why it is that the zoning board has not been able to have meetings, and many times people show up and the meeting is canceled. So those are some questions that I would like to have answered, and I'm sure that there's some other people that would like to have those questions answered too. I don't want to get into a debate about whether the right not exists for that to be done, but I think that we ought to have clarity, and I would beg of you to make that happen. And that's
Thank you.
all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And before, like I said, I won't go into any more detail until after everybody speak. As Ms. Williams said, and there has been a number of scheduled meetings that have been canceled. Why were they canceled? I'm not sure. But at that time, when the meetings were scheduled, that was the opportunity, that is the opportunity for everyone to be able to express their concerns. But they've been canceled 1, 2, 3 times. So that was the venue and the opportunity to do that. And we haven't gone away from that. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Donna Reynolds. Name and address, Ms. Reynolds.
Maybe
Donna Reno, 42 Emile Avenue. I was not here, or I was here, but I was outside and didn't realize that Mr. Pettit had spoke before. So I'm here to address some things that Mr. Pettit specifically said and give the correct answer, as my husband does not speak for me and I do not speak for my husband.
Ms. Reynolds, I'm going to ask you to
staying on topic.
stay on topic, not to
I am.
call out any proper names or people's names. If you can avoid that, then we're going to have a.
Taking from my time now.
I'm going to give you your time.
Okay.
But if you would help me, not to mention anyone's names, talk to the subject, talk to what you have a concern about, as opposed to making it people names and all that.
Well,
If you-
it's specific because
Well-
I'm going to explain why.
You're going to have 3 minutes, but can you, I don't want to have to stop you, Ms. Reno, but please don't make it too personal. Talk about the subject, talk about what you have a disagreement with, talk about how you think it could be improved, but let's not go down that road where we lose our decorum and professionalism here for anyone.
Got it.
Okay? All right.
So I'm actually here to respond to the comments made by Mr. Pettit,
By an individual,
which is also an employee.
okay?
So he came up here and was able to speak about it. I'd like to respond because I was the person that he was talking about.
Okay, I'm going to let you respond, but if it start going off to the left, I'm going to turn the mic off, and I don't want to do that. So you have your opportunity, and nobody wants to take that away from you. Go right ahead.
So the first thing is
I'm not holding it against you. You still
that
got your
Mr.
time.
Pettit said at this podium, in front of everyone to see in the city of Kenner, that I was being investigated by the district attorney's office for battery on the mayor's son. That was an absolute lie. I expect a written and public apology because it was an absolute lie. And Mr. Pettit is completely aware of that. Jefferson Parish has never investigated me for anything, and I would like that to be fixed. The other thing is that I don't speak for Keith, and Keith does not speak for me. We do not live in a third world country. So when I come up here and I make my comments, I would like to be addressed myself about my comments. Now, one thing was said that my husband was asked to leave someone alone, and someone in his family alone, because I mentioned during comments of here that there was a relationship between an employee, that person, and they had children. And it wasn't an attack on the family. It was an actual explanation of the depth of the relationship. In other words, it wasn't a casual dating thing, it was big. So I wanted to correct that because Mr. Pettit spoke about that. Mr. Pettit said that Mary Sharon Howland was on.
Ms. Reynolds, please stop calling names.
Mr. Pettit said MSH was on the agenda, on my agenda. What I actually said is that it was on the agenda. In other words, I was going to speak about it that night. And didn't get to because other things had come up. Okay? So
40
then-
seconds, Ms. Reynolds.
Okay, so last week, the fifth, assistant to the mayor played a song, Crazy, as I was walking by to go to the restroom. And he was standing next to an ex-wife of Keith's, not a name.
Ms. Reynolds, let's not, because we don't know what went on. We don't know if the song was true, it's something that you heard. Let's just stick to.
Okay, I'm telling you.
Okay.
I was, Mr. What's his name that spoke last time said that I was not, without provocation, I said something about.
15 seconds, Ms. Reynolds.
And I was provoked by Benzon's fifth assistant.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds.
You're welcome.
And Ms. Reynolds, I'm just going to say that, listen, if somebody says something about someone, obviously, we will allow you an opportunity to address things that are falsely said. And that is true. But I think you can do that in a way, professional way, without conjuring or bringing up a lot of other people who are secondary to the conversation. I think you did well tonight, and I want to thank you for that. So in the future, that is going to be the course that we're going to take, address it for everyone. So thank you very much.
Honestly, though,
Ms. Reynolds,
it's
your
not
time
freedom of
is
speech.
your time is up, Ms. Reynolds. I think
That's
we
fine,
did.
but
I think we
that's
did
not
good.
freedom of speech.
I'll see you next council meeting.
Mr. Pettit can do it, but no one else can.
Mr. Roger Perkins. Name and address, Mr. Perkins.
Roger P. Perkins Sr., 500 Taylor Street, Kent, Louisiana. And I'm Roger Perkins. I'm also I'm an architect, and I'm also a president of a local civic association, the Concerned Citizen Civic Coalition. Been in South Kent now for about 30-some years. My thing tonight is I've been getting a lot of calls because everybody think I know the answers for the architectural problem. So we're talking about the school, Washington Elementary. Sometime back in the early year, I think right before, after the holidays, we had a festival at County Elementary. And we had the festival for all the civic associations, and we donated money, and we put our time in. We had booths because we have adopted the school, and we want to save it. Now, the reason why I'm here is because people are asking me what's going on with the lot. Used to belong to LaCour Lumber. And what is going on with that lot that they have test piles, soil bore samples they're taking, all kind of stuff that's going on out there. So where are we with that, Mr. Perkins? I say, I have no idea. But when you see test piles and you see them clearing the lot, it sounds like it's a done deal. My thing is, I spoke with Jefferson Parish School Board, the people who said they want that school to expand. And they're willing to pay those people who got that, who bought that thing to put a 3-story storage building on Airline Highway, and you won't even be able to see the school anymore. There are no schools in South County. They're all gone. There's only one left, County Elementary, and we would like it to stay. Now, I could stay here and talk about this all day, But the fact of the matter is, a gentleman by the name of Cedric Floyd, I think everybody knows Cedric Floyd, he's with the school board, he said that they're going to purchase the property, but this is before all this other stuff come up, and expand Kenner School to make it a middle school or a bigger school. But some storage people come along and then bought the property and started clearing it. And these meetings that they were supposed to have, they just haven't been happening. It's 3 cancellations, and I don't have the answer. And I can't give it to them. I do know that it seemed like, and the only answer I could give them, it's a done deal. Okay, they're gonna do what they wanna do anyway. They re-subdivided that property, and I wouldn't be surprised they rezone it so that they can make, I heard nothing about variances. Nobody told me that the 3 sides, you had the Clays, you had the Stoods, and you had these family names go way back since this town began. And they said, well, we don't know anything about it. Nobody came to us for a variance. So, I mean, it's being built right next to them. Their property own and stuff, but nobody's saying, oh, they have no right.
15 seconds, Mr. Perkins.
Okay, but anyway, I'm against the school, the project for the storage place by the school. And I just hope something we can do about it. We can call a meeting, we could kick this thing around, and it would be greatly appreciated. We meet every Wednesday, second Wednesday at the at the Council on Aging, the Concerned Citizen Civic Coalition, and we'd be glad to have it. People come up so we can discuss this.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
All right.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm gonna repeat what Ms. Williams said, that from our conversations and other conversations with people, the meetings have been canceled 1, 2, 3 times. Why? For different reasons, I'm sure, but that is still the direction that we're going in. I cannot speak on behalf of the Jefferson Parish School Board because I am not a member of the school board. So any information that you have, obviously you have the privy of talking to either one or more of the school board members. They have not purchased the property. Someone else has purchased the property. So, that has not happened. Why hasn't it happened? I don't know. But as the council in the city, it is not our, we don't go around determining who can buy something and who can't. This is America. People have the right to be able to purchase things, and whoever purchased it have the right, but they do have to adhere to our laws. So I'm just going to answer you to those comments right there. Ms. Kailyn Smith. Name and address, Ms. Smith.
Carolyn Smith, 1232 Fairway Street, Kenner. I, along with others, are here tonight in regards to that same property, the storage area that they want to build on Clay and Webster Streets in District 1. My concern is, why wasn't there a community meeting held with residents and other parties involved in District 1? My next question is, why weren't correspondence sent to every person on Clay and Webster Street except selected persons to include there's a community center on Clay Street, there's Washington Elementary School there, and there are 2 churches. So when me being the church administrator, I'm getting calls and I'm asked questions about what's going on. We can't give the parishioners at Little Zion Missionary Baptist Church any answers because we don't know what's going on. My next thing is, the residents and community do not want this construction in our area. We feel it is not safe nor befitting. There is an elementary school there, there's a community center there where the children go to before and after care, and the concern to the parents they are afraid that if someone goes to the storage area, take one of those kids and put them near the storage area, kidnap them or whatever, that they'll never find their child again. There'll be all type of people coming in and out of this storage area. and we don't want it in our area. We don't want it there. Why can't they go to a commercial area instead of coming into a residential area? These are our concerns. The next thing is, Ms. Phyllis C. McMillan made 100 years old this year, and she should get something too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I'm going to address the last comment left about Ms. McMillan. She did receive a proclamation at the party that I attended that I personally gave to her. So the council did. So that's okay. You don't have to be sorry. Also, you and I have had conversations about this. Again, I'm going to go back to what Ms. Williams said. We have talked about meetings that have been canceled, but it does not mean the meeting won't happen. My responsibility as a council is to ensure that we are involved in what happens within our community. Not that we can dictate law, because it's going to boil down to what is permissible on the property. And it's my responsibility to ensure that no law is broken. Even if we disagree, it is, as we spoke about, our God-given right to be able to discuss what go on, to voice our complaints, and many of us have complaints. I think we all have complaints as it relates to the school and the number of people associated and families. Listen, as we all know, I have a family history connection to the school as well as anyone. So obviously, this is not something that's been on my blind side. So I'm concerned about this too. So everything that's within the power for us to do from the city to ensure that everybody get their say on this will be done.
Well, we feel that we have no say because the construction trailer is there, the temporary pole is there, and they have a few pilings that they've put down. So we feel that we don't have a say.
Ms. Williams, I will say that if someone owns a property, they are legally can put certain things on their property that they feel that they want to put. Doesn't mean the construction will happen. It just means that they have the right to put certain things on there. We will have an opportunity to address that. It doesn't mean it will go forward. It just means that they chose to be able to put certain things on their property, just like you have the right to put certain things on your property without any discussion at the council meeting, as long as it sits within the air of it. So I think Mr. Perkins, we have one more person to speak. Mr. David Weatherby, please. Mr. Weatherby, name and address.
617 Webster Street. I didn't come prepared to speak, but I didn't even realize I was signing up to speak, but since I did.
You didn't realize you, okay.
You're not required to.
You don't have to, Mr. Weatherby.
617 Webster Street, David Weathersby. I'm just a concerned citizen. I haven't been here as many years as some of the others that spoke before me, but I am 40 years old. I was born and raised in Kenner, and I'm back in Kenner now. And my concern is of what the ones that came up before me in regards to the big box storage. And I know the zoning, there's a variance in progress. I know they cleaned it up because they wanted to make an impression on the zoning board. As far as their variance, getting a variance so the permit has not been issued, no, but they're in the process of working the system in order to get that permit. You know, like you say, this is America, and we all know how America works. And so I'm just here to put my support behind stopping it, because basically that's what we're talking about, our community. Which brings me to my other point. Like I said, I didn't come here to say this, but since I'm here and I have the mic and the platform, it goes much deeper than this. You know, it goes much deeper than this. And that's why my proposition would be an authority, a Kenner authority for District 1, where that the district would have more say-so and more input on how that community, which is for that community, so who's better to say what would fit in that community than the community? And these kind of issues, we could address them more on the front opposed to the back. So, like you say, this is America, and we know how America works. America is a great place to live. I love America. I love the city of Kenner. And that's why, you know, I want to directly ask the mayor, Mr. Benzine, his ideal or with his concern, or would he even put that on the agenda for District
30 seconds, Mr. Weathersby.
Thank you. For District 1 to take this to the next level. We want to get it on the agenda so we could have public meetings and have it open so that we can have a discussion where that we could bring it to the state when Mr. Wilmot is, you know, and then we have some other friends and constituents up on the state level, and this could benefit the whole city of Kenner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I believe Mr. Walter. Okay.
I'm gonna let Mr. Walter take care of that part, but Ms. Foshee actually has the whole synopsis, but I want to yield it to you as a district councilman first, or do you want Ms. Foshee to take it?
Now, I'll go first.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm glad everybody skimmed up to the meeting. I've had conversations with a number of people here as related to what's going on. I publicly stated my position on it. There's no doubt about that. I am not privy to conversation that you may have had with other people to say certain things. I just can't. I can't speak for the school board. I can't speak for everyone. There are certain rules that as the city we have to adhere to, and one of them is to ensure that the people are involved in the process of any process going forward. That is my responsibility to ensure. We have not had that, but it does not mean it's not going to happen. It just means that it hasn't happened. So when people make accusations that we're not going to do this or they're going to do that or it's already a done deal, well, that is your personal opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to the facts. And the facts are we will have due process. We will have, like every other person in America, will have the right to appeal if something is done that we feel is illegal to do that. But we cannot determine something just based on what we see. And just to address about them cleaning it up, it's being cleaned up because I received a number of calls from people sitting in this room that it was an eyesore. So I requested that they clean it up. Now, nobody knew that because no one asked me that. But I received a number of calls from people in this room that say it didn't look well. So I called Mr. Rick, said, please give them a call. They have a week to clean it up because we've been going on and on with this. That is why they initially cleaned it up, because they wasn't doing it like they were supposed to do. They were breaking our code laws. Now, the process of going forward, it's been a number of things that has happened and has not happened. Now I'm going to yield the floor to Attorney Foshee to address those issues and concerns for everyone.
Now, I'm sure the legal department hates it when you call me Attorney Foshee, because that's actually the legal department. I do happen to be a lawyer,
Well,
but this, it's all right. But my role in this particular issue as the Chief Administrative Officer, many people may not know that last week when the mayor was out of town, you were the mayor. And but for you being the mayor last week, we would not have detected this problem and we would not have been able to stop this problem. I can tell everyone in the audience tonight that there is no permit, and no permit will be issued until that neighborhood has the chance to come in and be heard. The little bit of information I can give you about the LaCour Lumber CubeSmart site is, yes, there is a rezoning pending. There has been no hearing. There is a re-subdivision pending. There has been no hearing. We have two internal processes that frankly are defective. These processes would allow a developer to come in and talk to our personnel and obtain planning and zoning decisions without your neighborhood, without my neighborhood, without anyone's neighborhood knowing anything about it. So this mayor, for those who are listening, Mayor Carroll actually took the appeal. And you didn't say that, and you could have. You could have bragged about that, and you didn't. And I want to say thank you for your leadership on this issue. So because of the appeal taken by then Mayor, now Councilman Carroll, the BZA process has stopped in its tracks. The permit has stopped in its tracks. We are calling for an expedited BZA hearing because it's not right. I understand things happen, I understand you don't have quorums, but at the end of the day, we have dragged this on, and it's not just it's the process. I get it, but it disenfranchises people when they don't have a chance to hear what's going on. So there will be a BZA hearing. It will be an appeal by Councilman Carroll saying, I disagree with the decision made without a hearing to allow for a nonconforming use. That's the point at which those in the neighborhood who believe that this should not have been a nonconforming use have the right to come in and talk. In addition, at the request of then Mayor, now Councilman Carroll, the legal department is investigating whether the planning process that allows there to be a re-subdivision without notice to the public provides due process. At this point, I can commit to you on behalf of this administration that we will look at these rules very carefully, that we will make proposed amendments so that this cannot happen again, that these sorts of changes will not happen without there being public notice. We let that neighborhood down. I am sorry, and we're going to make sure that does not happen again. Thank you, Councilman Carroll, for your leadership.
Thank you. And listen, guys, everybody in here from District 1 has my cell number. You can call me anytime. We can talk about stuff. We have addressed this. Some of the individuals never called me to ask anything about what was going on. Just like there were we took an executive session to go into the back and talk about some legality things. There were some things legally that we could not technically talk about all in front of everyone about it, because from a legal standpoint, there are other individuals that own their property who has attorneys that we didn't want them to get the opportunity to turn this around on us. But I'm glad Ms. Fauché explained the process that we will never, any of us on the council, because what we have done, we have identified a flaw in the system that will not only benefit District 1, it will benefit every district. So we should be proud of that something happened that we identified, that the administration and the mayor saw was a problem, and now we get an opportunity to fix that. We get an opportunity to express our concerns about our neighborhood. We get an opportunity to express about the historic building, Washington Elementary, that's been there for 80 years. We get an opportunity to explain why we do or why we don't. But what we don't get an opportunity to do is say, just because we don't want it, not allow the legal process for people who own property and things to try to do. If it is wrong, we will address it. And I just ask that, yes, it's been going on for a long time, but a little bit more patience for us to schedule this meeting, for all of us to come together and to be able to express the things that we need to express. And in the future, and always, you have my cell number. Please give me a call anytime if you can address things. And, this is the way the process works. So nothing there, it started down the wrong path, but we pulled it back straight. And now we will be going in the proper direction to ensure, not only for District 1, but for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Thank you. Mayor Zahn, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Two things I want to thank you for. I guess Ms. Fauché really kept in touch with you really good, because I'd have to call to find out what was going on, because she felt very comfortable with Mayor Carroll. So that was the good thing. But I appreciate you finding that, bringing it to the administration, obviously as the acting mayor, bring that to her, and y'all got on that. So I appreciate your leadership on that and taking that and getting to where we need to be. We're going to take that responsibility now, shared with you, with your leadership, and make sure that we get that done. So we want to continue to work with you with that issue and, of course, many other issues. And, of course, with the community that's here tonight, that we will reassure them, as Ms. Fauché said, we will do that. Secondly, I want to commend you and thank you for how you handled which I've asked for in the past, for some kind of decorum on that. What I see with your leadership as council chairman, this administration / myself won't have to comment anymore to the antics and charades that we see sometimes. Last closing comment is, I feel very comfortable with the way you handle it. No one will be attacked personally. Just for the record, I don't have 5 assistants, but I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is, I don't want to, it's a combined effort of all of us. We all get an opportunity to speak to one another, all the council people, to address their concerns, what they said, how they said, because at the end of the day, it's a reflection on us. So for all of us, that should mean something, not to be able to come in here and not look professional to the citizens that have elected us, the taxpayers, the outside businesses. You know, they're going to look at us. No matter what a person does or say, we will have the responsibility to ensure that. And that's where we are right now, just like we are with this property for District 1. Hey, this is something that we have to deal with. There will be other things, but I think setting the precedence for this will make all of us better, will make me better. I'm not perfect. I could have probably did some things better. I admit that. But I think we all will learn from this going forward for other issues as it relates to the city of Kenner, District 1 particularly. Thank you. A motion to adjourn? Oh, I didn't see your name here, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Segur wanted to speak too. No, I was just trying to get Greg's attention. Thank you.
Name and address, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Richard Brown, Sessions Lane, Kenner. Got a question. That's right. Thank you. Got a question about the problem with the trucks on Minden Lane Street, whatever. Is there by any chance a big yellow sign there that says dead end? That'll probably do wonders. Well, I realize there's one turn in between, but I bet that'll do wonders for stopping those big trucks because they can't turn around at a dead end very well. So whether it's, you know. Their point is they're not paying attention to the sign. I think they might pay attention to that one, though, especially if it's 18-wheelers and they're going to get boxed in. I wanted to make a comment about the mayor's rules that he enacted, that he signed yesterday regarding, you know, the apolitical workforce, and to correct something actually to correct something that I think Councilman Segur said. I don't think the mayor said this, but the statement was made that after the federal judge made her ruling granting the preliminary injunction to stop the city from enforcing the charter provision that restricts political activity, that until the mayor issued his policy, that we had nothing enforced, that employees could do anything. And that's simply not correct. We've got Article 8 of the charter, the civil service provision, that lays out pretty strict limitations as to what the classified employees can and cannot do. That the judge's ruling actually only affected, as I understand, 30-something employees who are, you know, the exempt employees, department heads, some mayor's assistants, people like that, legal attorney's office. All the rank and file employees are still bound by Article 8 of the Charter, the civil service provisions, which restrict political activity far more than the mayor's executive order does. So, and I do appreciate the mayor doing this. It is the only way that we could have gotten something enforced to affect those 30-something employees. So I do appreciate him doing it. We may quibble over the provisions that are in it, but I do appreciate him taking some action on that. And Mr. Imbestato, I think you and I were talking about two different things earlier about the attorney's opinions. I was referring to the ordinance that the council tried to adopt in 2012 that they rescinded when the attorney general said the council can't do it, you know, the mayor can, and then we did it with an ordinance. But you're right, the city attorney, I think, opined that he thought the charter change was unconstitutional. I think his opinion was the city could not restrict.
30 seconds, Mr. Brown.
His opinion was the city could not restrict political activity. I think it's clear now the city can, but it has to carefully define what activity is prohibited. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I think now, Councilman Segur, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to first thank Mr. Brown for coming up here and correcting any of us when we need correction. But in this case, I didn't need the correction because that's not what I said. I was discussing the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that were asking for a federal court ruling on the decision that the referendum that prohibited them and them only because of their classification. This had nothing to do with civil service employees. I get that. They are clearly protected. So all of that discussion was only on the plaintiffs of the suit. So my statement was that it left them open to do what they wanted, and that is correct. I see you shaking your head, so I hope that means I was correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to
Motion
adjourn.
adjourned.
Second.
Whereas the theme of the 2017 Health Center Week is celebrating America's health centers, the key to healthier communities. As local community-owned and operated businesses, health centers across the nation serve 25 million Americans at more than 9,000 sites. Whereas health centers provide a tremendous asset to the healthcare system by offering quality, accessible, and cost-effective health care. The City of Kenner Community Health Center, located on Williams Boulevard, is part of a national network that offers the highest quality of patient care to our citizens. Whereas CEO Michael Griffin and operated by the Daughters of Charity, Kenner's Community Health Center provides pediatric care and general medicine to everyone who needs it, with a goal to reduce and prevent with affordable options. They are problem solvers with objective to look beyond and not only prevent illness, but to address the factors that cause poor health. They are a healthcare center that leaves no one behind. Now, therefore, I, Ben Zahn, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Kenner, the Kenner City Council, and our chief of police, do hereby commend this tremendous asset to the healthcare system that leaves no one behind. We hereby recognize the important role of the Daughters of Charity in conjunction with the CEO, Michael Griffin, to perform at the Community Health Center in Kenner, and hereby proclaim National Health Center Week, August 13th to the 19th, 2017, Community Health Center in Kenner. We appreciate what you do for our community. We present you with a proclamation, and we ask you to step up and say a few words if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, City Council of Kenner. I'm so very welcome or happy to be here and appreciate this proclamation. The community health centers throughout the nation, as well as in this New Orleans region, I have done tremendous work over the past, well, so many years, 50 years actually, in providing health care to all we serve. So we actually see insured patients, but more importantly, we treat the working poor of all of our communities. Those who are under 200% of poverty, we specialize in providing care to. And actually at Daughters of Charity, we have roughly 45,000 patients that in this New Orleans area, in the Kenner community. Our newest health center in Kenner, we opened about a year and a half ago on Williams Boulevard. And so we're so very happy to be here in Kenner, to work with this community and all of you all as community leaders in providing the necessary needed health care to all of the citizens of Kenner and to improve the health status of all of our communities. Thank you.
Whereas through the years, the City of Kenner has had visionary leadership due through the council and the mayor. From Rivertown to Laketown, the city has developed into a well-run community that includes theaters for entertainment, restaurants for dining pleasure, and a variety of businesses, from shopping malls to banking, from landscaping and design to hair salons. One such business, successful for over 4 decades, is Image Makers Hair Designs on Williams Boulevard. Whereas born in New Orleans and raised in Kenner is Mary Ann Koscho Reynolds. Did I say that right? The owner of Image Makers. From a very young age, she knew what she wanted to do and followed her dream to beauty school, finishing right after graduating from Grace King. After working at Dolly's Beauty Salon in the 70s, she became owner, renaming it to Chicks and Dudes. Then by the 90s, she made it into what is now known as Image Makers Hair Designs. Whereas back in the 70s, romance was in the air, and when Mary Ann met Bill, and soon they married. As the years progressed, they became proud parents of 2 beautiful daughters, Lacey and Lindsay, and as a result, were blessed with 3 adorable grandchildren, Kylie, Ava, and Leah. There's nothing like being a good example to the family. Her daughters, Lacey and Lindsay, have followed in the mother's footsteps, obtaining their cosmetology licenses and working in the hair salon. So Mary now works part-time so she can enjoy the traveling with her husband and spending quality time with her beautiful granddaughters, and at times where her heart desires. Whereas the city hereby commends Mary Ann Koscho Reynolds on over 4 decades of success in Kenner with this thriving business, and wishes her very best now in the future to enjoy a well-deserved time for traveling and family. Now, therefore, I, Ben Zahn, by the authority vested in me as mayor with the Kenner City Council and our chief of police, do hereby congratulate Image Makers Hair Designs 46th anniversary. Before I present the proclamation, I'm going to like Councilman Segura to come up and say a few words. He's longtime friends of theirs. Councilman.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Yes, want to acknowledge that, as the mayor read, that when Mary Ann first came and opened up her hair salon on Williams, and the name was Chicks and Dudes, I was one of those dudes that went there and was there when she first started. Of course, at that time, though, since I was a young narcotics detective, I had some very long hair and kind of fit in with the chicks that I guess that were in there. But it wasn't too long before I realized it was time to get rid of that long hair. So challenged her to come up with a new do. So what I have now is probably still the same do. And I appreciate that she was helpful in allowing me to have this good do somewhere. So, but anyway, Mary Ann, I want to, again, thank you, congratulate you for these many, many, many years in Kenner, particularly on Williams right here and in District 2, as we sort of grew up together, you and your family, your sister, your daughters who were much younger at the time, so I don't really recognize them now, but I know that they were there because they would run around on the floors. So I wish the business many more years with the rest of the family's handling and you just overseeing on your spare time. So again, congratulations, and we were very thankful to have you as a business in our city. Now I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I guess half the people in here have at least stepped into our salon at least once in their life, because we actually, I guess you could say, we brought the cool haircuts to Kenner at the time, because nobody was really doing that here, and we did have sometimes that people were like, what are they, doing all these crazy haircuts? Well, yeah, at the time when we called it Chicks and Dudes, that was the 70s. That's what they did. So we called it. He's still laughing. I know. I had people that were really mad at me when I changed the name, and they said, I'll never call it Image Makers. And so I actually keep my water bill still in Chicks and Dudes, just for, but anyway, I really am, honored for this. And he didn't tell me I had to say something, or I would have had something planned, but that's probably a better thing that I'm not doing that. So, but thank you again. I appreciate it.
I'm going to ask the members of the Proclaiming Christ Church to step up. I know we have a big part of the congregation and all the scholarship recipients also. Myself and Councilman Carroll and I believe Councilman Impostata went to their scholarship banquet 2 Saturdays ago. If y'all could step up. And I was not able to stay, but I was able to at least go there and meet the recipients. And I promised the church and the scholarship program that we would do something here at the council meeting, because Councilman Carroll was able to stay and present the proclamation on behalf of the city. But we wanted to all do it for what the church does for this area. Whereas Proclaiming Christ Church has established the Proclaim Community Outreach Services as another opportunity for church members to directly assist the community. Whereas this group is already extremely active in community outreach through career fairs, clothing giveaways, and weekly meal services for seniors. Education has been a particular focus for Proclaim Community Outreach Services, with a program in place that has helped more than 1,200 students over the past 5 years prepare for the school year with supplies, uniforms, and haircuts. Whereas tonight's scholarship banquet is another effort to benefit students in the community. Scholarship applicants will be available to high school seniors at our local schools, including Bonneville, East Jefferson, Grace King, and Riverdale. Proceeds from this banquet will fund scholarships of at least $1,000, book vouchers of at least $250, and also will be used to assist back-to-school program and a tutoring program for the middle and elementary school students. Now, therefore, I, Ben Zahn, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Kenner, Kenner City Council, and our chief of police, do hereby commend the outstanding community services performed by this organization, which has greatly benefited many people in need and brought pride and honor to Proclaiming Christ Church. Proclaim Community Outreach Services of Proclaiming Christ Church in Kenner is presented this proclamation tonight. And we're going to hand out some scholarship certificates, which we did the other night, but we also want to at least acknowledge with certificate recognition. But before I do that, I want to actually present you with the key to the city for all the things that you all do throughout the year. Besides this, it's a great thing that you do for our city and for our residents. But also, I know you personally, I know what you do, and I want you to bring this back to the Reverend and make sure that he knows he has a key to our city, and thanking him for everything he does, along with all of you all. And I'm going to let Councilman Carroll call out the certificates, and we're going to hand them out. If the council would like to help us with this and congratulate these young ladies for all they do. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to say that it was a privilege and an honor to attend the banquet the other night at Chateau Estates to see all the lovely young ladies and all of their accomplishments. Education has always been, it is now, and it will be in the future for your ability to be able to make a living, to raise a family, and to be successful. So please continue your journey on this, not only from academics, but also what you will learn from other people, from mentors and things like that. So it's a combination of both, but this is a good way to start, ladies. Hailee Blount. Miss Lyric Johnson. Miss DeChanda Martin. Miss Derrian Martin. Miss Kailyn Rainey. And last but not least, Miss Doria Wilson. Congratulations.